Thank you, Fateh.
Haji, welcome to another session of Coach Gurbani. Ravinder Singh here, joining you from Columbus. Today we will be wrapping up our discussion on the theme of Haumai with a presentation from Reji Paramjit Singh Rana. And the format is pretty much what we've been observing in the past four presentations, namely the presentation will first be made by the presenter, in this case, Ranavirji. We allowed 15 or 20 minutes, but we weren't that strict about stopping people, myself included. I think we were more in the neighborhood of 25, 30 minutes, but um, feel free to take the 30 minutes if you have to. That will be followed by a round robin of questions from the panel. If you do not have a question and have an observation, please make the observation. If you do have a question, make sure that the question is comprehensive. In other words, that you're not asking it in bits and pieces, because what we want to avoid is this back and forth between two people on this forum, because and so be mindful of how you actually even phrase your question. And if you don't have a question, that is fine, but have an observation, that's also very well. Also be mindful of time. We are allowing a couple of minutes. We generally have. We haven't reined in anybody, but just be mindful that you've got a couple of minutes. And if we have time remaining, we will then go through another second round of final observations. So that is the format. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ranavirji. Ranavirji, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. Hanji Harinderji, can you please put it on that screen, the first screen?
Can you see my screen?
The first, right, the beginning. Let's start in the beginning, please.
Can you see it?
Oh, yeah, it's not on the screen. I can see. Others can see it. I don't know. It's not on the screen.
I can see it.
Hanjivirji, we can see it. You need to
Okay,
click
that's
on
good.
Coach Gurbani icon in the bottom, then you will see it.
Okay. Okay, very good. Yeah. Vaheguru Khalsa, Vaheguru Fateh. First, let me apologize. I was not able to attend last week and one of the presentations before, and because my sister passed away, so I had to do some other things. But I have gone over the presentations, and I was very intrigued and impressed by the different perspectives which were presented. I am coming on that with a very little understanding at Gurbani. I made it very clear on the form that I'm just learning, and we are in fact are the learners here. But my learning is a lot more smaller, I would say, than many of the people around the table. So what I have done here is whatever I have learned from people on the table, and whatever I have learned when I hear Kirtan, Gurbani, and when some quotes are made and I sit back and try to reflect on those things, and then I go back to my intuitive thinking and try to see where Gurbani is taking us. So what I'm going to do is, basically I put all my thoughts in the presentation, and I will literally read that with some modifications of my thoughts as they come along. So let's turn to the first slide, please. The purpose of this presentation is to peek inside Haumai. I just want to go inside, what is inside, and see if we can find the locus of its control, to understand why it is that the Guru Sahib is saying, Haumai Vishab Jag Bhurana. Why are we going crazy because of that? What is unique in Haumai? Can we penetrate, go in? And that is what I want to do, and that is where I'm going. Next slide, please. Let me go with the preamble, where I'm coming from. My background and all that, I have been thinking about that. As a freshman in the university, I was at one time very, very intrigued by a very simple mathematical problem. It's called Fermat's last theorem that remained unsolved for 350 years. The problem was so simple, but it remained unsolved 350 years. It baffled me. How could a mathematician make such a simple statement that could mystify experts for over 350 years? Then what I learned from one of my professors by name Inder Singh Luther from Princeton, he encouraged me to use my intuition in formulating and solving any problem. He insisted that I must use my intuition. Then later on, I had another professor from Chicago who was a doctoral student of Dr. Subramaniam Chandrasekhar, who further reinforced the power of intuition by underscoring that almost all scientific discoveries, from the theory of relativity by Einstein to the discoveries by Thomas Edison, were first germinated as intuitive ideas in the human psyche. What is intuition? It is simply a gut feeling, a hunch, an ability to know something without evidence or conscious thinking. It is a flight into the abstract and unbounded world of infinite wisdom that surrounds us. Remember that intuition is not science, and neither is Gurbani. Gurbani subsumes science, but it is not subservient to science. Science has a dark side. Gurbani does not have a dark side. Science can wipe out continents in a fraction of a second. It can create environmental degradation and havoc of unimaginable proportions. Gurbani does not. What was scientific 500 years ago may not be scientific today. And what is scientific today may not be scientific 500 years in the future. But Gurbani is eternal, so they cannot be the same. Those who claim Gurbani is scientific have to provide the reference point for the science. Are they talking about 500 years ago science? Or are they talking the science as that exists today? Or are they talking about the science which is going to be there 500 years in the future? Next slide, please. On almost every page of Guru Granth Sahib, there are words like Kirpa, Pana, Benati, Ardas, Jodhari, Nadar, and Minat, which don't have any parallel in science. Such words, concepts provide demarcation between science, the atheist ideology, and the religious school of thought. As I said before, my Gurbani knowledge is very limited, and so has been my research to understand Haumai from Gurbani. Based on whatever little I have learned from Gurbani, I have developed for myself an intuitive paradigm of Haumai. The structure and the content of this paradigm helped me understand and reflect on Gurbani. It also offers insights where my intuitive reasoning may not be in congruence with the social or spiritual thought. All arguments presented in the following slides are based primarily on intuitive reasoning. There is no evidence, no data, no observations, and thus no validation. I believe in any social or spiritual discourse, as in Gurbani, there are often arguments that cannot be subjected to experimentation or empirical validation because there are procedural difficulties in isolating and controlling certain aspects of human behavior. There may likely be interplay of various academics disciplines such as psychology, sociology, physiology, neurology, biology, philosophy, physics, and chemistry, which they may be operating simultaneously. And finally, the speed at which electric impulses which carry information flows the human mind and interacts with the material world Maya is difficult to control and manage. Next slide, please. So where I want to go? I want to go here. The convergence, the whole paradigm is going to converge here. Convergence of a paradigm. Haumai dirag rog hai, daru bhi samai. This is one of the pivotal statements to which the model converges. Haumai is a chronic ailment. It's just like a spectrum disorder. I have Haumai, other people have Haumai. Everybody has Haumai, but it varies both in the level and industry among us. Some could have intense and some might have very mild Haumai, but we all have Haumai. Haumai is always a disease. It cannot be interpreted as a selective antidote. But what is very important we have to understand here is embedded in it is the cure inside it. Just like an orange we are looking at, when we look at the seed inside it, Nanak hukme je buje to home khe na koi. Embedded in it is the cure, the hukam. Nanak hukme je buje. If we can understand that hukam, which is the cure inside it, as I put it here, orange, I slice it, and inside I said, that is the cure which is sitting there. It is not somewhere outside. I happen to read few articles by academics, were 10 pages long on Haumai, talking about a lot of things. You see, Haumai goes from here and here, and we need to have it. And talking about, and sometimes Haumai can be a cure, but no, it is always cure is inside, embedded in it. The challenge is to have this buje. Buje means intuitive understanding. I remember when I was little, my mother will be sitting there, a guest will come, she will look at me, and that means that I have to get out from here or bring tea or something. It was intuitive understanding. I have to budge them. I have to budge. That is buje. Intuitive understanding, it is not only solving a riddle, rather it is developing an intuitive sense about something that is not transparent. And that is what buje is. And that is the goal of the whole exercise, that are we able to understand that inside our Haumai is residing hukam, which is the cure for that. Next, please. Next slide, please. Haumai is how and may. When I was reviewing the 4 presentations which were made very effectively and provided very different perspectives, and I was listing the questions which came, and the first 3 statements I picked up from those videos. First statement was, if I eliminate Haumai, so on, so on. Then there's another statement, what was coming to my mind, okay, so on and so on. And then somebody made a statement, if I think I have to do something, the goal will continue to elude us. When I read these statements, to me, it is not communicating anything because it is addressing that I, elusive I. The question which has been bothering me is, who is this I? Unless we understand this I, we cannot understand Haumai, because this I appears in Haumai too. Without knowing I, Gurbani message will continue to hover at the periphery of the human psyche for another 500 years. This I is the same as man in Haumai. To understand Haumai, we must strive to understand I. Unless we understand I, we cannot understand Haumai, we cannot understand Hukam, we cannot understand Naam, we cannot become Chara. That is my position. Learning about I is not a fixation. It is an imperative to understand I. In early 1900, George Mead raised this issue as he discussed the nature of self and the concept of I. So that's where I'm going to focus now. Let's try to see how we interact with the material world. Material world, we have 5 senses here on the left side of that, converting a stimulus into a sensation. We detect stimulus, our sensory organs, they detect it, they convert into nerve impulses, and nerve impulses are perceived as sensation to central nervous system. On the right side is basically the same thing. We start with a stimulus. It could be anything we see in the material world. We have receptors in our sensory organs. They receive that information through nerves that goes into brain. Brain, the nerve passes that information to effectors. Effectors are our muscles, heart, and other things. And the responses come back to the material world again. So we bring information from the material world. Human body processes that information, and as a response, it goes back to the material world. But everything is happening where I put a circle, is the brain. Everything is happening in brain, and that is where I want to focus here next. On the left side, I made some observations. A flower gives fragrance. The question I have, why fragrance? Why not smoke or something else? Energy can be created or destroyed. Why it cannot be destroyed? To every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Why equal? The answer is, these are the laws of nature. This is the hukam. Their number is unaccountable, and the scope is unbounded. It is beyond human comprehension. Hukam na kiha jai. Let's accept that. I'm going to make statements there. Nobody can challenge those statements because they are beyond our comprehension. That is what the hukam is. How which aya, how which gaya, how which jamia, how which mua, how which ditta, how which leya, how which katya, how which gya, and so on. What is how? Man has not come in Asaji Devar. It starts with how. Man comes in later on. How is the individuality with which we are born? There's no man attached to it. It's an individuality with which we are born. We are all born and die. In this process, we carry our own individuality. That is how to me. At the time of birth, how is free of man until later. Once man is formed, it clings to our individuality how and gets transformed into Haumai. So we have to draw a line here. Now let's look at how it's coming now. Our brain is 80% genetics and 20% environment. The genetic footprint in the neural system defines one aspect of our individuality. How? And here's the picture of our neural system, how the information flows through that. But we have the genetic footprints which tells this is Paramjit and this is so and all this. We are all different on that. That's my individuality. The second thing is the sensory information passes through the neural system as electric impulses, and the system has this inherent capability. Okay, and this, don't ask me how it has it. And here my intuition tells it is because of Hukam. It has inherent capability to transform the sensory information into thoughts. I remember Deepak Chopra made a statement on television one day, and he has an outstanding reward for $1 million. Anybody who can tell how thoughts are formed. Nobody knows it. And my answer here is, it is a hukam. So when the information is flowing through this one, it's just like we have pipes there, the water flows through, the hot water flows through the pipes. If the pipe have insulated pipe, less of the radiation will go out. It has less insulation, more of the heat goes out. So the capability of the pipe, it's just like our capability. My capability might be able to create certain thoughts. I can look at the same picture. You can look at the same picture. Your thoughts might be different. My thoughts might be different. The reason being our inherent capability is very different. And then, because of the speed of the electric impulses, which runs in nanoseconds, various interactions play out sequentially, but they appear to as operating simultaneously. So many things are happening, we cannot isolate those things. Because of these interactions, the seed thought, the thought I'm talking, the original thought which originates, or the core thought, proliferates into many subsequent thoughts in nanoseconds. That's where I'm going. The inherent capability of the neural system to transform the sensory information into thoughts is unique in each individual. This is the second aspect of our individuality, with which we are born, the capability of the system we have. And here I'm making a statement here. Some people might feel uncomfortable about that, but my intuition tells me this capability, which I call intellect, is fixed for each individual. The inherent capability remains fixed in each individual, but this intellect evolves into intelligence, what we call buddhi, as thoughts and our awareness about these thoughts evolve over time. Intellect is a foundational core of intelligence. Unlike intellect, the intelligence, the buddhi, continues to expand over life and influences and informs all subsequent thoughts. Now, convergence, the mind and the I. So the collection of all our thoughts, whether we are aware of those thoughts or not, is what is our mind. Since thoughts are influenced by intelligence, buddhi, so is the mind. And since every thought is anchored in hukam, as is shown in slide 8, so is the mind. Our mind is anchored in hukam. Now, how is the mind? It has different layers, for example. Thoughts that reside at the periphery of mind is our active memory. The active memory is the conscious mind, and it is our man, and this is I. Let me repeat. When we look at all these thoughts in the mind, they're different layers, just like onions I got here. In the top layer, where all these the thoughts which are in the active memory, which we are conscious about, is our man. And this is what I is. Awareness of all of the thoughts progressively diminish. And these thoughts together constitute what we call the subconscious mind, or chit. Just a second. Now, chit is relatively more stable Chit is relatively more stable and is attuned to hukam due to its proximity. The man, is very flustering and agitating. The agitating I wraps our individuality how, which causes the Haumai to emerge as per hukam. Haumai eho hukam hai, paiye kit faraye. So I don't know why, how, from where hukam has come. But this is what Guru Sahib is saying. When I wraps our how, hukam comes into play and the Haumai is created. Is smoke or whatever you call it. That is how Haumai shows up. And when it shows up, only after when we have created that I in us, and I is our man, which all the thoughts which are running around, and those thoughts wrap about individuality, and Haumai is created. Haumai is a chronic ailment, but embedded in its core is the hukam, because all these thoughts are anchored in the hukam, which is in the center, as I showed in previous slides. Here's a cautionary reminder to I, which is man, as I said. Man tu jot swaroop hai apna mool pachan. We heard the statement many times. What is here is a cautionary note. Man is being reminded that being a collection of thoughts, and since each thought has radiated out of hukam, that was when the information of flowing through a neural system, the hukam came in. You are in fact a light radiating out of the same hukam, and this is the core reason why you exist. Keep this in perspective. Jyot here does not mean the Jyot of a Kalpurk, as some people have been thinking about. It is a light emanating from hukam, which is inherent in each thought and therefore in man. Man tu Jyot swaroop hai apna mool pachan. Next page. So what? So key observation what I have here is, it is I, which is the prime culprit that wraps our individuality how and creates Haumai. Haumai is a chronic ailment, but within it, its core also resides hukam, which is its antidote. I is not influenced by chit, because chit is subconscious thoughts. I is influenced by man, which are the thoughts in the active memory. And it is influenced by the new and emerging thoughts originating from the sensory stimuli. New emerging thoughts are moderated by Sat Sangat, because it depends who we associate with, because stimuli, external environment is going to bring new thoughts. So Sat Sangat is very important. The agitating man is calmed by Seva and Simran. We thus have only these three tools, Sat Sangat, Seva and Simran, to control I and Haumai. Kirt Karni, Van Chakna, and developing good virtues are only beneficial if Haumai is first tamed. Otherwise, as per Gurbani, I was reading at one place Gurbani, but I couldn't find the lines from Guru Granth Sahib, where Gurbani very clearly says that all these actions end up generating more Haumai. So unless Haumai is tamed first through Sat Sangat, Seva and Simran, all other things are going to fall apart. Here's a postscript. The world is a play. It is not a game. In a game, we compete. In a play, we collaborate. In our personal and professional lives, we work hard, we compete, we move tactfully and strategically. Some of us succeed, others fail. Those who succeed claim it is their hard work. Those who fail say it is destiny. All this, what we do in this world, is mechanical. Haumai adds a layer of variability and creates an illusion that it is our free will at play. That's my quote. And finally, I thank you, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to think, sit back and think, and I'm open to further discussion. Vaheguru Ji Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh Ji.
Anji, thank you, Virji. Thank you very much. Dilpit Virji.
Hanji Virji, I'm still trying to digest and connect. I think it's a very eye-opening and challenging thing, and it is making us think. So Virji, where I got little bit thinking going on is, you have a statement which says that man to jyot swaroop hai apna mool pachan. You are saying that this mool is not Akal Purkh here. And then we have other
Mool
lines.
is hukam.
Okay. Because we have other lines like saying that tohi mohi mohi tohi antar kaisa kanik katak jal tarang jaisa. So there are many verses which are saying that mool is Akal Purkh, and then it also says that Akal Purkh has subdivided himself. He does not exist outside, and we are a portion of it. So, but you have presented a concept of man and hukam. So, can you elaborate on that a little?
Yes, first I didn't say mool is not Akal Purkh. I am talking to Jyot. I said Jyot is not Akal Purkh. You see my slide there? Jyot is not Akal Purkh. It is the radiations coming from the mool, which is hukam. Can you go to this slide number? I think, let me tell you. This slide is right in front of you right now.
Yes.
Jyot. I'm talking the Jyot is not Akal Purkh. I didn't say mool.
Okay. Okay, I think it was a good presentation, and I can ask something more. I'm still trying to, because and then you can move to next person.
Thank you. I'll come back to you in second round. Eileen.
Okay. Yes. Thanks for the presentation. It was really, really thought provoking. One of the things that really struck me was the idea of the man being calmed by satsangat and seva and simran, kind of like a conditioning of the man and the relationship between man and how. So my question then is, we talked about Howich, and then the Howich, kind of just the I individuality, then becomes Haumai. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on what causes that change from sort of the individual natural sort of state, which I think it was how you're describing Howich, and then changing to self-centeredness of Haumai.
That's a very good question, Eileen, and that is where I said that how we are born with the individuality and I is all the thoughts we are creating from the environment, what we're getting, and how Haumai has created that a mystery, and that's I call hukam, law of nature. It's just like that. We don't know why something is moving; it doesn't stop. It keeps on moving. This is a law of nature. Why a flower is giving fragrance? I don't know. It is just law of nature as a hukam. The same way when I wraps our individuality and some smoke comes out, how it looks like, it is what the Haumai is. And this is Gurbani saying, Haumai, hukam. I think I put a quote there. I think it came from Gurjeet Virji. And I learned by listening to people around the table actually. And that is, again, I have to pause here. It's not that, as I pointed out, we cannot validate these things, because when we go into the infinite wisdom, which is beyond our scientific domain, we are going to encounter things. Even in the science, we encounter things. We define laws, we postulate things, we define axioms in mathematics and economics, we define laws. All these things are happening there. So same thing here. We have to accept that we are not able to understand, explain from where Haumai is coming. Guru Sahib is saying the same thing.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you, Ji. Anji, Indramohan Virji. Anji, Indramohan Viji.
Anji, thank you for a very fascinating presentation, certainly very thought-provoking and a lot to digest. I guess one question I had is, you said that certain things like developing good virtues or vanchakna and all, they can only be beneficial after Haumai is tamed. It seems to me these things are not sequential. I mean, these are all uh, things that themselves can help spiritual progress and help overcome Haumai also. But of course, um, if they're done in a way that you feel, hey, I'm doing good stuff, I'm doing vanchakna, I'm developing good qualities, then of course you can strengthen your Haumai. But I don't understand this. I don't see that it's a sequential thing that until you overcome your Haumai, you cannot get any benefit out of any of these things. And maybe you could explain that a little more.
No, I think I agree with you what you just said, that these are not sequential, and you're right that if we do these things, yes, our home might come down. Yes, I totally agree with you. The thought came to me when I was reading this Gurbani at one place, and when I look around people who are doing a lot of seva and they are doing because they are promoting their own business, I said, look, wait for a second. Yes, seva is being done. People are being getting benefited. That's great, but there's a vested interest. That's what the word Niskam Seva is used in Gurdwani, or at least what I heard, Niskam Seva. Niskam Seva. That is, if we do that, man, Niskam means that we don't have any vested interest in that. But I agree with you. What you said is, yes, these things can tame our home, and no question about that. So these are not sequential. These are my initial thoughts. But yes, these are again very, very at the very basic level. And it is for me to develop on that by getting input from people like you, and I'll refine. And but it is helping me understand Gurbani. When I look at any Gurbani book, I try to put in paradigm. I said yes. If it doesn't fit into that, then I look, my paradigm has to be adjusted. And the same thing what you said, I totally agree with you on that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Viji. Anji, Ripudaman Viji.
Anji Viji, Vaji Khalsa, Vaji Fateh. Ranavir, thank you very much on your presentation. As usual, very, very interesting perspective.
Thank you.
My question to you is related to the brain and the hukum. The way I interpreted your statement is that hukum actually is a set of the laws that exist in the universe, so to speak, by which the universe runs, so to speak. And therefore, when we take this physical brain, that the genetic reality and the environmental conditions, they kind of led to the creation of the human brain. That essentially, you said, is the template for the intellect. And after that, when that brain through this body starts interacting with the world around, then the man develops. Did I state did I say it correctly? This is what you meant in the slides? I haven't asked my question. I just want to make sure my model is correct.
Yeah, something. Yeah, essentially, yes. What you said is right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But one, keep in mind, when I said hukam, keep in mind, sunlight, the sun ray is is not a sun, it's just a ray. Hukam, inside this hukam I'm talking about is not the entire hukam, which is unbounded. An aspect of that hukam is there.
Yes.
Hukam has many laws. So I just want to make clear that
makes sense.
Part of this, just a part of that hukam. Just like a sun ray is there in us, but not the whole sun.
Yes. So my question is related to the fact that if I was to forget Akal Purakh and interpret hukum as the laws of the universe, which in my mind, if I want to be more specific, they are actually the physical laws of the universe by which the universe is governed, then your whole model is flowing beautifully. So is there actually a need for the Akal Purakh to exist through which the Haumai is, the hukam is coming? Like, what I mean to say is that the whole model that you have defined can be explained via the physical reality, right? Do I actually have to go to this faith-based spiritual reality to explain all this, or can I? Do you see what my question is? I hope it's
Yes, I
clear.
got it. I
Okay.
got it very well because I think your this question and your question very insightful to Ravinder Veji after his presentation trigger me to after that I decided to make this presentation because I believe laws of nature are the hukam, but the hukam is not the laws of nature. Let me repeat again. Laws of nature are hukam, but hukam is not laws of nature. By that I mean hukam is much bigger than laws of nature. Hukam expands and transcends the physical reality and applies over there too. Where the word of kirpa, I quoted 6 or 7 words, kirpa, pana, and all those. These, the domain where these have some meaning. Hukam extends to that which is beyond our comprehension. So when you made that point, insightful comment at that presentation, that you are treading two lines, atheist point of view and also the religious point of view. And I said, wait for a second. On every page of Kurbani, we have the word Ardas, Kirpa, Pana, all those things. And that is where the line is, that it is we have to go beyond the physical reality into the spiritual domain where other things exist. So the same thing I also call, but I have to spend time, I didn't want to go into, I call that energy is Nam, but Nam is not energy. Okay, I will talk about that some other time when I was writing my notes there. The same concept, laws of nature are hukam, but hukam is laws of nature because I think physical reality is a lot smaller than the reality what Guru Granth Sahib is talking about. So that's my perspective on that.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Viji.
Thank you.
थैंक यू वीर जी हाँ जी प्रकृत वीर जी
Thank you, Vijay.
Thank you.
Vijay, first of all, thank you for a very different articulation of the thoughts on this topic of Haumai. And in particular, I am really fascinated by how you kind of placed a lot of significance on this process or concept of intuition. And to my mind, that is something. So I just want to clarify. I'm not really asking a question, just making an observation.
Hanji.
So to my mind, when we are talking about Gurbani and understanding about Gurbani, the intuition has a very, very significant role. I remember the other day, I was having a discussion with a person who has a lot of knowledge on Gurbani Kirtan, into music and preserving the musical parampara from the age of the gurus. And we were discussing a certain topic, and I was kind of falling back to my understanding based on Gurbani from Guru Granth Sahib. I would say that this is what it should be because, see, this is what Guru Sahib says. And he made a very, very interesting comeback because it was a discussion. He said, this is what is there in Guru Granth Sahib. Do not quote that. What do you know? Which kind of shook me up and made me think that somehow, and I'm talking about my personal experience, we get into a vicious cycle of just falling back to the lines in Guru Granth Sahib and trying to theoretically, in a way, overanalyze them and trying to implement them in a certain way that each one of us have in our lives, in our mind. But what he said gels very well with what you talked about intuition. And I think it is that journey from my thoughts to my intuition and back, which is what Gurbani, I'm again referring to Gurbani. Gurbani is talking about to getting myself, taking myself out of Haumai. So, and connected to that is when we talk, when we talk about home which aya, home which gaya, home which raya samaye, it's probably not a physical coming and going. It is that journey wherein I am going through a process where Nanak also says, Eran mat Ved Hathyar. I am applying the Ved, I am applying Guru Granth Sahib,
Mhm.
and I am using my thoughts
Exactly.
at a conscious level,
Mhm.
and which, as per the hukam, as per the Pana, or as per the Guru Prasad, makes me go through that journey from my thoughts to an intuition, and then back, where the intuition becomes my thoughts itself, and the home as a separate identity is kind of dissolved. It is that journey which is being talked about. Whereas I am stuck in a journey every day, which is within my home only. I am acquiring those different personalities or different consciousness or whatever. So that significance of intuition, I think, was very well
You could,
Anji, thank you, Virji.
thank you, Virji. I think that you made the point, and when I read Gurbani and all Guru Sahib is talking, and I think he is talking from intuition. Okay, Lalo Bani Ai hai. He's just connecting with Shabad Guru and all that, Anna Davaji and all. These are all intuitive concepts. It is he elevated himself to such a level that he could connect at intuitive level and go all the information which he gave us in writing. Okay, let's sit down and talk about these things and try to take flights up into that, what I call infinite wisdom, which is out there. And thank you very much for your observation, Virji.
Thank you, Virji. Ikongarji, I know you joined late, but any observation or question based on the last few comments by the
Well, I'm grateful to join. I'm sorry I was so late today, but I was reading through this slide, and I really appreciate this comment that Kirit Karni and Vans Chakna and developing good virtues are only beneficial if Haumai is tamed. And I never heard that before. And I just want to say I appreciate that piece of wisdom that I'll take with me from this session, that the tools to deal with Haumai are Satsang, Seva, and Simran, and that actually we need to kind of do those first before we can get into our own expansion. I just want to say thank you for that.
I just want to comment that please don't think it's wisdom. These are my thoughts. Just take them and reflect on these things and develop your own wisdom. This is not my wisdom. This is just thoughts I'm sharing with people who are a lot more the Gurbani literate than me. So thanks for your comment. Just take it and reflect on that, and then develop your own intuition and take the flight up. This is what the Gurbani is telling us all over the place.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ji. Anji, Ravindra Virji, all yours.
Ranaviji, thank you very much for this very interesting discourse. I personally feel somewhat gratified that you talked about intuition, because that's something that I've been harping on myself, that this is all about intuition, because the word in Gurbani for intuition is Sahaj. Satgur Tapas Sahaj Seti. And we also know that in Gurbani, the knowledge of science, or the knowledge that we are generally accustomed to, is actually considered to be agyan, a vidya. That is really not the knowledge that is being sought here. So that is very clear, that we cannot live at the level of our thoughts and try to solve this. So I'm very pleased to hear that we brought the whole idea of intuition out. And Guru Nanak, of course, offers us a methodology that is very clear, on how to actually access your intuition. It is in Japji Sahib itself. It is Surya Maniya Man Kita Pao. That is indeed the inversion that is required. And some of the tools that you've mentioned, like Seva and Satsang, are the external tools that will help you. So I think it's just awesome that we are talking about intuition. I just want to make a couple of observations, because we've all been thinking about Haumai quite a bit. I am of the conviction that, Haumai is an illusion, because Gurbani calls it a param, and a param is an illusion. It's a user illusion, and it's a useful illusion to have. That's one observation. The other that I want to make is that it seems to me that Guru Nanak is not talking about one self, but at least two selves. One is how and one is main. How is, of course, you spoke about that, so I won't dwell on that. It is really the formation of your identity, and you can relate it to the evolutionary process. The other, the man that you spoke about, and you mentioned George Mead, who talks about the man being a social self. So it is interesting because the man is really a social self, which means that it's not being created by us. It is actually being created by our environment. So the subjectivity that we feel is really not self-created. It's created by our experiences, and our experiences are always with people around us and the environment around us. So that is how I have sort of seen how and may. One being a given through the evolutionary process, and the second being a social structure, because we also live in the world of meaning and abstraction. So I want to thank you very much, and thank everybody else for their observations. But those are just a few of the things that I wanted to bring up.
Thank you very much, Virji. And as you mentioned, Maya is, in fact, the way I presented is, it is social construct because it comes when we interact with the environment through sensory organs. Information is coming, thoughts are coming. These thoughts together define what is I.
And if you look at Gurbani, there are different contexts in which Haumai has been used. It is being used as Haumai, and Mai as well. And you actually will get the idea that that is social.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
Haji, Harvinder, it's yours.
Okay, thank you, Virji.
I think we're almost done. It's 9:55.
Yeah, I will just go a quick 5-minute round. Dilpit, Virji, any final thoughts after listening to everyone?
So I have a follow-up question on what I am preparing for next week, and it is extension of what Ripudaman Virji asked. Okay, and I think anybody in the panel can pick it up. So, do we play any role in Hukam, or can we influence the Hukam, or change it little bit? What is the thought on that?
You're asking me that question?
Yes.
No, I have to sit back and think. Hukam is, I don't think, if we are talking about laws, if Hukam is a law, we are not, I don't think we are constructing those laws. I don't think we can change that. That's my immediate reaction, but I can sit back and think over that.
Okay,
Anybody else has a thought on the panel on this one?
No, Virji, I have a thought on it because I've been thinking about talking on that particular topic for the presentation that I'm going to do, and what I've been thinking about is if we understand Hukam as the outcomes, right? We can't control outcomes, but we could control actions. So I've been kind of thinking about that as a difference of understanding, Akal Purak's control and the laws of nature. So that's maybe some direction, and I'm going to try to explore that.
So Dilpreet, you want an answer in 3 minutes?
No.
Whenever this question comes up, I go back to the lines in Japji, Ape Bija Pehi Kao, and then right after that it says, Nanak hukami, we come and go and hukam. And the way that those two ideas are directly juxtaposed to each other, that we eat what we sow, but we come and go and hukam, to me says that, like what Eileen was saying, that our ability to choose and direct our actions is actually part of hukam. But there's no way for us to, it's kind of like Guru Nanak is trying to say, okay, idiot human, if you sow deceit, you're going to reap deceit. Like there's no way to get out of reaping what you actually sow. The manipulation doesn't work and cleverness doesn't work. And then I think that one of the things that it says in Gurbani, which I love, is that when the mind gets attached to the shabad, it clears the like this blocks from so many incarnations. So it's not that we can change hukam to what my ego wants, but we can definitely alter our reality by focusing on the shabad and letting that mystical connection start to work in our lives in a way that's beyond the ego. So those
Thank you. And Indramanvirji, any feedback on that?
Yeah, I thought that was very well put right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love what Ekankar just said.
Sounds good.
That's it, Ji. Thank you very much.
Aji Prapitvirji.
Yeah, a very short comment on that. I think, Virji, whether or not we can change the hukam, we can go back to the discussion we had last week. But till the time we believe that, so Gurbani is talking about two hukmis. Ikna hukmi bakshish, ikna hukmi bakshish, ik hukmi sada pavaiye. So as long as I live in the illusion, and we talked about the illusion just a while back, that I am the hukmi, I would always try to chase that elusive goal of changing the hukam. And I would believe that I am changing the hukam because I'm not playing that game. This is the other game which is part of my own illusion. But when I break out of that consciousness and merge with the hukam, then obviously not the hukam is one. And it's not about changing the hukam. It is about aligning with the hukam, like Nanak Patsha says, the hukme andar sabko bahar hukam na koi. So it's moving from that illusionary game which I am playing, where I believe I am the hukmi and I am in the perception that I am changing it, to merging with the hukam. That's a brief thought on that.
Thank you, Virji. Ravinder Virji.
Hanji, thank you. I think what Prabpreet said, we've talked about the example of not wanting to swim upstream. That's what it's akin to, not wanting to swim upstream, but to swim with the flow. So you want to align yourself with hukam and flow with it. But Ranabirji, just one last thought that occurred to me. So in your postscript, you say something very interesting. You've said that in our personal, professional lives, etc., those who succeed claim it is their hard work. Those who fail say it is destiny. It just occurred to me that perhaps here is the answer. I mean, if you're not in Haumai, then if you succeed, you wouldn't claim that it is your hard work. You would still say it's destiny. So in either case, it's destiny, meaning the outcome is really not something that you can determine. You can simply work hard. And I think that this is my thought. I think that kind of is a thought I wanted to share.
Thank you very much. I just wrote that. I finished that, and I thought, okay, it's coming to my mind. I just jotted it. Yes, that's. I have to go back and think about what you just said. I personally, I thought when I was writing it that what we are doing, we're working hard, but I think everything is mechanical at the core. But this, because we have a different level of Haumai. I might have a lot of Haumai, and I might be pushing myself because I want to achieve those things. Other people might be they're slow paddling people, yes, they're going at different paces. And that creates variation in what is happening around us. And I think the whole thing, what we are doing is basically mechanical, to be honest. And And then you
Yeah,
said that,
exactly. But the point being that whether you're working hard or not, as long as you can, if you succeed, if you can attribute the outcome to
Haumai.
Parna, and if you don't succeed, you can still attribute it to Parna, then I think you kind of have hit that balance. If you don't claim that it's your hard work that made you succeed, and I think that's the key. That's where we get caught up, because if we
You're right. You're
succeed,
right.
we think we did it. But to your point, it's all mechanical, but the outcome is not that certain.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So with that said, it's 10:02. I want to thank everybody. Harvinder has passed it to me. Next week, we will embark on a new theme, a related theme, Hukam, and Dilpreet Singh will give us the first presentation. So I expect to see all of you next week on Wednesday, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard. Thank you very much. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa,
Khalsa,
Waheguru Ji Ki
Waheguru
Fateh.
Ji Ki Fateh.
Vaheguru Ji